You know the problem every Godzilla toy has? They're all way too small. I mean, I go through the aisle at Toys R Us, and the biggest Godzilla I could find was, what, 10 inches tall at best? This is the king of monsters, one of film's biggest characters. Literally. I need a toy that's gonna make me feel the same size that I get from watching the giant lizard on the screen. And luckily, the new movie solved that problem for me, and I want to review it for you guys. Slight problem. We need to relocate. Special thanks to Jakks Pacific for their help with this review. Don't forget to check them out on YouTube for a look at more of their toy lines and see what else they've got on the way. If you aren't aware of what Jakks Pacific is up to these days, you've probably seen it on any trip through a toys section without realizing it. The Batman, Darth Vaders, and Power Rangers towering over the other action figures in the aisle are all their work. While most toy companies are getting smaller with their figures, Jakks sees a literal gap in the toy store to fill, and if this Godzilla does anything, it's fill space. Standing somewhere just shy of 2 feet tall, depending on stance, it's by far the biggest toy of Big G I've ever seen. But he's not all height. Nose to tail, this plastic lizard comes in at 43 inches long. Forget Tokyo, Godzilla's going to devastate your shelf space. It's big enough to probably find some scale props to make him more fun. Finally, that old Micro Machines collection pays off. The beast is cast in a very dark gray plastic, not green. Good on Jakks Pacific. Godzilla's not a colorful character, so his paint apps are limited, mostly kept to a spray job on his chest to give it a look of softer belly scales. All the rest is dedicated to the face, with white teeth and a pink and red tongue, and tiny eyes. I don't know why the little eyes on such a giant toy amuses me, but they do. Naturally, the sculpt of this toy is of the new American Godzilla, as you can tell by the smaller head, the thicker proportions, and the lack of Matthew Broderick stench. Some take issue with the redesign. I personally don't have an issue with it. If it's a giant lizard that could easily crush a pagoda, it's Godzilla. The sculpting is doing a nice job, though it looks softer on the main body than the limbs. There's enough hard scales molded in to get the job done. On a toy this size, I wouldn't expect it to be ultra detailed. The spines I like, 3 rows all the way to the tail. Not as spiky as the classic, but accurate to the current look. They're soft plastic, both to avoid breakage and to avoid turning this into a massive hacksaw. There's a lot here that's rubbery. The head, hands, spines, feet, and tip of the tail. All softer to prevent breakage, harm, etc. Oh, and did I mention articulation? 'Cause this isn't a plastic statue. It might be limited, but it's there. The arms move up and down with about 45 degrees of motion. The wrists fully rotate, as do the ankles. The hips move up and down. The neck fully rotates, and most important, the mouth opens and closes. Again, find tiny cars and have fun with this feature. There's another articulation point that's actually more gimmicky, as the tail is on a loose side-to-side hinge, letting him whip his tail. I actually wish it had a bit more range so it looked less like a tail wag. Down boy. Down, good boy. Down boy. Down Godzilla. Down Godzilla. Down boy. Down boy. Down. Don't judge me. Now that's all you get for gimmick, but you probably noticed the cuts in his stomach, like a speaker should be there. Well, there's no sound box on the toy, even though you can also find a compartment where the battery should go inside the tail, both signs of an aborted gimmick. Keep in mind, the market for a toy this size is already pretty limited. Every dime counts or it's going to end up too expensive to be sellable. The toy already retails most places for $60, which I think is fine for what it is. But would it be worth $80 just to hear the roar? To some, yes. To the average buyer, probably not. It's also why I don't knock the toy for lower detailing, paint, and articulation. Toys like this are made and bought for one reason: to be big. If I want a giant Godzilla toy, I don't want to pay $30 I don't have to just because the designers went over the top. I just want it to be big. In that, I think they found a good balance. It definitely hits all the right notes to still look good as Godzilla. By the way, I mentioned the battery pack would have been inside the tail, right? That means the tail is removable. In fact, it comes in two parts inside the box that can be separated again if needed. So if you've got a place against the wall or on a shelf that's a good spot, but you don't feel like carving a hole in the wall for the tail, there's your solution. This really is a toy that brings the giant toy market into perspective. I've seen kids cherish toys that didn't have universal joints or complicated paint apps, because most of the time it's the older kids or collectors that care about those things. All a kid sees is the character they love, and sometimes seeing that character in huge size is way cooler than making a toy shoot a missile or do a backflip. Godzilla is chief among these. If any character should be bought as a giant toy, it's this one. Just make sure you have a spot picked out before you head to Toys R Us. No, Godzilla, off the bed. You know you're not allowed there. Fine, just for tonight. Only because you set me on fire last time.